All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Grail Country. I call this a bird's eye view of the Northwestuary because Tracy and Graham and Megan attended as first timers, not having a whole lot of information. I'm sure, Megan, you know a little bit from your mom's channel. Tracy knew a little bit from me. Graham has interacted with people a little bit, but not really spent like the copious hours that I have and others on the Discord servers and in conversations with people. So I just thought it would be fun for everybody to see how it came across to them individually. I did actually have requests for this conversation, and I thought, okay, let's do it. I think everybody's really curious to hear what you guys have to say. So I'm going to get everyone to, we'll start with Tracy and then we'll go Megan and Graham, and just give us a little introduction of who you are, how you got, why you went to the conference, and then, where you live, a little introduction. Maybe if you want to talk about your profession, that's fine too. And then we'll just dive in with observations. So Tracy, you have to unmute.
Good morning. It's great to be here. Good and really good to see you guys. Sherry invited me on to talk about my perspective, which is scary. It's terrifying for you, not me. But anyway, I'm Sherry's sister. My name's Tracy, and in the tradition of the culture that I live, I'm going to do it their way, which is my name, which is Tracy Tanis, and my parents are Miles and Connie Faulkner. And I'm married to John Tanis, and I have 3 daughters. And I live in a remote community in British Columbia. I'm Sherry's neighbor, which is about 200 kilometers from her, which is, I don't know, do the math. I can't remember how to do the math for miles. I'm a wife and a mom and a grandma of 12. And I live off-grid, as I said, in BC. And I do a number of things. We do accommodations here, and then I also work at the local clinic as the wellness coach, which does treatment and drug and alcohol stuff over there. I went to the estuary conference. I kept asking my sister, what is this called again? And it's Northwestuary. And I'm like, my brain's not like, what? So I put it in my calendar and I kept going, what the heck is this again? So I turned 60 in August, the 23rd. If you want to send me cards, it's okay for belated. And gifts. I'm not opposed to gifts at all, but anyway, no, I'm just kidding. But and I was actually in the middle of, my husband had a surgery, so I was in a different city, and she said, why don't you come with me to this? And I was like, oh, I'd love to. She said, it's my gift to you. So that's why I went to the conference. I went there because I'm mad about my big sister. She's amazing. And I got mad respect for her. And I knew this meant a lot to her, which means a lot to me. So that's why I went.
Megan? Don't forget. Okay, good.
Hi, yes, unmuted. Hi, everybody. I'm Megan. I'm Karen Wong's daughter, which is why I ended up here. She's been involved in this whole thing for quite a while now. So, yeah, I didn't have a whole ton of knowledge about estuary stuff, but have just been interested in the last few years in like bettering myself and meeting other people who are kind of headed on that path, it's kind of hard to find friends at my age that are interested in talking about like deeper subjects and that kind of thing. So I definitely wanted to come and see who I could meet, and yeah, it was quite an experience for sure. I live in Salt Lake City, Utah. So I really miss like the West Coast, like moist forest kind of thing. We have forest for sure, but it's quite dry. It's a desert. So yeah, I live in Salt Lake City and I work at Trader Joe's. So I'm very hippie crowd adjacent. And yeah, it was just a really lovely time to be with some beautiful intellectual types, and my mom the whole time was like, I can't wait for you to meet the knitter Sherry, like, you know, she has a farm and you would just be so excited to meet her. So I was picturing someone totally different than Sherry, and yeah, it was really awesome to meet both you and your sister for sure.
Well, on that note, I got to show you. I'm working on this right now. I'm working on a sweater.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah. All
Oh.
hands. This is all hand spun.
Oh my gosh, amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
I need to come see your farm
We
someday.
need to talk more, Megan. We just never,
Yes.
Megan, the first time she saw me, she's like, are you the knitter? And I'm like, yeah. And then that was it. That was all we said to each other. But anyway,
That's all
we'll
you
get
need
there.
to say.
We'll get there, Megan. We'll get there. All right, Graham, you're on, friend.
Hi. Hi, friends. And it's nice to see people in the chat as well.
Yes.
And also
Yeah.
it's distracting in a good way. I'm Graham. Let's see. I guess I'm kind of a writer. I'm in a very in between. I'm in between many worlds right now. I've written a book. I've started a Substack. That's kind of happening. I used to have a real job, and I don't. I'm building a house, a timber frame house that will not be anywhere near as big as Tracy's log house. Which I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. But it'll be nice when it's done, which will be years from now. And that's in the North Woods of Minnesota. And I'm still not quite sure why I went to the conference. It was amazing. Sherry said, Graham, you have to come to this conference. And you know, I was afraid to go. I was glad that a lot of people who were there were afraid to go, but they went anyway. I was afraid to go. Sherry wanted me to talk, and I wasn't sure why. But I have strong feelings, and I have a couple things to say, and so I just did that. And I'm not sure how I fit in the big picture at all, but I do know that everyone I met, I just love so much. And the whole time, I was imagining scenarios in which I could get out of my obligation to go talk at this conference. Like, that's just terrifying. And I like, I'm very quiet, but having been there, I can't imagine not having gone. It's been so important to my life. The world looks very different to me now.
Wow.
And all these people that I love, I didn't know them yet. I didn't know that I love them, but I do. And I don't know, something happened. So, and now I'm in the, oh man, real life is not as good as the conference depression. So it's nice to see your little faces.
Yeah, same. I think we're all a little bit there still. I tried when I got home, I tried to open up a space immediately because there were so many people that I knew were, going through that, Graham, like just reality, and for some people reality is, harder than others, right? And so I really felt like, okay, let's capture these little sparrows before they completely fall. Even though God's watching them, right? He sees every little sparrow fall. But I really wanted to do that. And it's just interesting to me that, what is this, like a week later, or is it more than that? Must be more than that by now. We're still impacted by it. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I'm still processing it. So I think now I would like to get just some first, like, really raw, like, first moment impressions. And I just see my internet doing, coming in and out here. So if I shut off my camera, don't worry, I'm still here and I can hear you, and I can talk, just in case. But Megan, you want to start with that? You want to give us just your raw first time walk in the door? What are you looking at?
Yeah, I talked a little bit about it on the Discord, but yeah, the first impression was like, it just instantly reminded me of this. I used to work in cybersecurity. I was in tech for a couple of years after college, and I was I went to a couple of conferences that were like systems engineers conferences, where that job specifically in the company, no, like zero women, like maybe one or two women, like across the country in this job for this company. And so the conferences were like, I was like so tiny, and there were all these like giant men walking around, and it was just like, so that was my first thought walking in. I was like, oh God, like here I am again. Like, I was definitely pretty nervous coming into the doors. I had at least met a few people the night before at the barbecue. Um, like the most memorable was like, I was just kind of like trying to mill around close to my mom a little bit, and Raj came up and he was like, "Hey, I'm Raj, like, what's your story, blah blah blah." And we kind of got to the subject of like, I live in Utah, but I'm from California. And he was like, "Oh, why'd you move away?" And I was like, "Oh, I just not the culture for me. I just kind of prefer Utah, a little slower lifestyle." And he like kept pushing me, like, talk more about the culture. And so we kind of got on the subject where like I was just like, yeah, it's just all the money, all the kind of greed in Silicon Valley. It's just not the kind of life that I want to be aspiring to. I want to aspire more to living simply and within my means, kind of thing, which is hard for me with ADHD. It's just, it likes spending money a lot, but I try to just live more simply. And he was like, why do you think that is, the greed? Like, just 100% honesty. Like, don't worry about your answer. Like, just what do you think it is? And I was like, okay, this is my kind of people, just like talking honestly about things, like no judgment. Like, so that was a really cool first impression. But yeah, I'm certainly an introvert, so like walking into like the conference itself, it was like there's like
Daunting.
150 people, just like, and they're all 2 feet taller than me, and like what, I don't know how to talk to any of these people. Like, I'm pretty overwhelmed. So it was, yeah, it was definitely daunting. And when we got in the estuary group, I was like, you guys, I really needed like someone to get up on stage and be like, the hype man, like, welcome to Northwestuary. Like, I needed somebody to just pump it up a little bit. Because I was just too freaked out. I just needed like somebody to ground it a little bit. But it was good that we got into the groups pretty much straight away, so that I could feel a little less overwhelmed, for sure. So yeah.
Graham, you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. I have a couple first impressions. One was walking into our Airbnb, and Sherry, Tracy, Joy, and I were roommates for a joyous few days. That was so having traveled from Minnesota, and there's the flight, there's the getting up very, very early in the morning for the flight, flying over, staring at the scenery on the way over. I hadn't been west in like 15 years. Just all agog at it all. Asking stupid questions like, is that Mount Rainier poking above the clouds, or what? It's like, yeah. What else would it be? Anyway, and then the drive in the rental car from the airport with Paul Vanderklay and Michael Martin. Like, man, these guys are really smart, and like, I'm really tired and dehydrated. I'm like, say something that sounds smart, just like a couple things, and then check out. So that's their impression. I don't think I did that. I was just like tired, and then we went to Nate's, and Nate's like in like barbecue mode. I don't know if he even like said hi or anything. I'm like, I kept staring at the coffee pot. I was like, dear Lord, I really want a cup of coffee. Now that I know Nate, I totally could have been like, the second I had met him, be like, hey Nate, can I just like, how about I make a pot of coffee? Like, that's how it could have gone. I realize now, but anyway, we're just like sitting there, and Paul and Michael are just talking, and I'm just like, just trying to stay awake and not. And finally, Sarah Eve dropped me off at the house, and I'm imagining like, okay, I have like a couple of granola bars. I hadn't eaten all day, hadn't drunk anything either. Like, I'm just in need. And like, oh, granola bar or something, and some water. And I walk in, and Sherry is surrounded by, a crowd of witnesses, witnessing this gloriously abundant brunch feast, like toast and bacon and coffee, just delicious coffee. And she's like, come on in, welcome. And I was like, thank you, Lord. So just that moment of, the hospitality, and then all these people that were there who were wonderful and amazing. And like immediately, even though I didn't know anybody and nobody knew me, they're like, hi, and giving me hugs, and we're eating. And it's like, wow, I feel like I'm home. So that was one. Two, at the barbecue that night, similar experience to Megan. Actually, I talked to Raj too. Man, that guy's so cool. That guy's so cool. It's like, dang, Raj, you were cool. We actually never did get a chance to talk at the conference. I just kept thinking that Raj guy. But but everyone that I met was like that, in that not knowing anything about me, and me not having been a part of this at all, everyone was very ready to have a real conversation, with real curiosity. So, what is your life like, Graham? And then listening, like, what are you thinking about right now? So although I get, I'm pretty introverted, and like the weekend of the conference involved more talking than I would probably do in about 6 months. I had, like, it was wonderful, and I had energy for it because the conversation was so real. It wasn't like having to generate something. The conversation was flowing because like, it's what I've always wanted, which is just, it was like in a group of 80 people having a conversation with like an intimate one-on-one, or a group of 3 kind of conversation, that level of conversation where it's like, finally, there's no small talk. You're just sharing what you really think and feel. Like, that kind of intimate conversation was accessible everywhere in this like horde of 80 people. And that was amazing. Did I say 3? I think that was 2. I don't know.
It's all good. It's all good. You're next, Trace.
I'm next. Are we doing a time limit? Did you just say 3
No,
minutes?
no.
Oh.
We're not doing a time limit.
I was going to hyperventilate.
I can't remember if I said I had 3 impressions or 2 impressions. I don't know if that might have been 1 impression.
No, that was good. Like you gave
the
first impression of walking in the door of the Airbnb, which was first. And interestingly enough, there were a lot of people there already. Like Slack and Grim had showed up. I don't know if they were still there when you got there. I think Alan was there, Luke Thompson was there, and I, for some reason, I was staring at scrambled eggs, so I'm blanking on who else was there. But yeah, and then also the impressions of being at the conference. I got lots of thoughts, but Tracy, you go. Let's hear.
I have so many thoughts too, but I really appreciate you guys talking first, because it's a lot to think about. And first of all, I just want to thank Sherry for inviting me, and Nate and his whole family for their hospitality. And I love how you brought that up, and Megan as well, with the reception. It was so hospitable. And my experience was through my sister's eyes. I actually wrote a little poem about that. How I wish I could see through my sister's eyes, because when she expresses herself, sometimes I'm like, I want to see what you see through those eyeballs. So I was really happy to be her shadow, and there was a freedom in that for me, which I'm crazy about freedom. I'm all about it. And so I really felt like, and Megan, you probably felt this way too, just to be able to be incognito in a sense, like just, well, this is her thing. It's her world. And I just want to be here to, and I took some pictures, which I felt like I could play a part for her to remember to take some photos and stuff. But yeah, so, I mean, the moment I entered her car, because she has it's pretty souped up. If you know it's a souped up, the tires go up and down and stuff like that. We had the tunes pumping. What's it called again, Sherry? Charger? Wait, no, Prius. Yeah, that's what it was. But we had the tunes pumping. She goes, I feel like we did when we were teenagers. I said, I know, right? I told her I almost bought her a mug the other day. It said, to be honest, I think more about running away from home than I ever did when I was young. But anyway, so that was the start. It was really fun being with my sister and hanging out and to be a part of that world. And so upon arrival as well, just coming into the States, it was really nice for me, because I hadn't been back in years. And we got through the border okay. Nobody checked our stuff, which was good. And I'm just kidding. Anyway, and then when we got into the trees in Olympia, I was just like, I could breathe, because, trees are my friend. I'm one of those weirdos. And I really enjoyed that. And, but I said to Sherry, when I went into the Airbnb, I met Joy. Joy. And she is a joy, tell ya. She brings the joy, that girl. And then Graham came in, and I loved how what I saw. And then the others arrived, and there was food. So that's my world. That's my comfortable place, is hospitality. And we come by it honestly. My mother is still very hospitable that way. And so when I saw that coming into the picture, I just thought, I said to my sister, I said, Sherry, you know why this, there's such a familiarity and a comfort and a sense of affection and genuine care for each other. I saw it, which was wild to me. I'm coming at it completely opposite than the people who've been in it. I haven't been doing this on screen. I met everybody for the first time face to face. And so it was really interesting to me, because I was like, it's just amazing how genuine the affection and care for each other is. And especially coming from my sister, because I know her, she was in tears seeing everybody for the first time, and then being able to open up the doors and feed everyone. And I kind of looked at the bed and breakfast paper, and I was like, are we allowed to have this many people? I mean, I just knew I was going to get arrested in the States, thrown in breaking the B&B rules. I'm so bad with rules. Anyway, so she was like, oh, who cares? Anyway. But yeah, it was really amazing that way. And then I just saw that, I felt like that set the precedent. We came a little early, and I just felt like that set the tone for what this is. And, I mean, to me, we're all about humans. We're all about relationship and love. And when that sets the tone and the mood, and family as well. So that was really beautiful to see that. And then when I went into the event, I felt like that tone just kind of lingered on there. Sherry and Luke just brought that warmth, and Nate feeding everyone, having people into his home. And I've always felt really strongly about that scripture that says, he stands at the door and knocks. And I said that to Sherry one time. We're sitting in the bed, the Airbnb, and there was a whole bunch of people eating and talking, and I heard somebody knock at the door, and I said, he stands at the door and knocks. And when we open it, he comes in with us, and he sits with us, and he eats with us, and he hangs out with us. And that, to me, that's where it all starts. So yes. I guess that was my first impression. And yeah, just from that angle. Yeah.
That just gave me goosebumps.
we're in a good start then.
Yeah, we are. All right. Well, okay. Well, we got that. We got the first impressions covered. Here's the other question: is this real?
Ooh,
is this real? Maybe Graham, you want to start with that? You ready for that?
I was hoping you'd say that. Yeah, because I have strong feelings about that, which I told you. And I'm, I would say I'm pretty, or have been pretty cynical about the internet as one example of many ways in which the whole techno social system keeps us alienated from one another and from nature. On this live stream yesterday, where my internet was going in and out, and Rafe Kelly was like, hey, if you just pop on your phone, that might give you a better connection. And I'm like, this is my phone, Rafe. I've been trying to now stay connected with people from the conference, and already I can't do this because I don't have a device that's just on me all the time. I have to go down into the basement, which means going away from other people. And anyway, I've been very intentional about not going down that rabbit hole of not being hunched over in the screen. I've been cynical about it, or dismissive. This is not real. And even anyway, I would say I'm hypersensitive about what's real and what's not real. And and it's easy for me to dismiss things as unreal. What I told Sherry was that my whole attitude had to shift with the conference, because as an outsider looking in, it was overwhelmingly, I'm getting choked up just thinking about it now. It was overwhelmingly obvious that prior to meeting each other face to face, all these people had deep love for one another, and that they had really, I mean, as you were saying in a different stream, Sherry, like part of that was that, you know, you all had truly touched each other's consciousness, even with all these layers of unreality that the whole tech, you know, two-dimensional screens, pixelated faces, you know, Brady Bunch floating heads. Like there's a lot of things that aren't quite correct about it. But nevertheless, it was like all you people deeply loved each other and cherished each other and respected each other, so that like the moment of first face-to-face encounter, like people were crying and embracing. So the connection was really real. And so, and I can't deny that. And it's really real, but not enough, you know. Obviously you all felt the need to come together and in fact name the concert or the not concert. We should have had music, by the way.
We should.
The conference. More music. We had Michael Martin. That was great. More music.
More music.
Kumbaya around bonfires is what I'm recommending for the next time. But the conference, you know, encountering face to face and like that was the theme of the talks and everything. But like the earnest desire was for everyone to, like, you know, virtually not alone is not enough. We actually need to be in the flesh together. And it was so I've been trying to write an essay on my Substack about it, and I don't know how well it's going, and I don't know if I'll send it out, but the metaphor I've been thinking of is of Jacob, the reunion of Jacob and Esau in the desert.
Oh, interesting.
Where, you know, they're like estranged for each other for years and years, and Jacob having, in the worst possible way betrayed Esau, and finally, after many years and getting married and raising children and living their separate lives, Jacob is coming back to his homeland to see Esau. And this is the metaphor that you know, Jacob's got a huge caravan of people, you know, family, servants, camels carrying all of his vast wealth. You know, he's like soldiers, guardians. You know, there's this, and he stretches it out over miles and miles and keeps sending people ahead with gifts. You know, groups of guys to bring huge gifts, lavish gifts, and to say, you know, for my lord Esau from his servant Jacob. He's just humbling himself and like and preparing, you know, like Esau would be perfectly within his rights to just slaughter Jacob and all of his people, you know. So Jacob's like really worried about this reunion and keeps sending gifts ahead, and then when finally they could see each other, the two brothers, they get close, and Jacob prostrates himself in the dust 7 times, and Esau just runs up and grabs him.
Oh, man.
I love you. That moment of like, so I think of the internet as like this sending gifts ahead of ourselves.
Right.
And that something like that had happened. I'm not saying there's this betrayal between people, but that this estrangement, this alienation, and that the internet is this sending gifts ahead of each other, of ourselves, before the reunion. And it was clear, I mean, the way that people hugged each other and you know, yeah, Sherry was just like crying, just like, and I don't know, the moment I walked in the door, and we haven't known each other that long, but you know, we know each other deeply, you know, our hearts are kindred hearts, you know, so we know each other, even though we haven't known each other for that long. Like when I came to the door, and like, Grant, it's like, Sherry, it's like, I haven't seen you for like billions of years, and finally, you know, you know, it's like, oh my God. So yeah, the sending gifts ahead, and then the prostrations, and then the embracing, like something real had been already happening. That was obvious. And and now, yeah, I'm like Tracy. I was never involved in this before, and now I'm doing it backwards, having seen all these beautiful faces in the flesh. Now I'm like, yeah, back to the internet and trying to connect that way. And it's tough, you know, it's painful because you know that it's not quite what it was.
Yeah. I really love that, Graham, like the sending gifts ahead. That's a great insight. I love that. I'm stealing it. Better get your essay out there faster.
You'll say it way better than I will.
I don't know about that. I'm looking forward to reading that if you do publish it. Tracy, your turn. Is this real?
Oh, okay. When my youngest daughter was, she was in her preteens, and we were sitting around as family. We were talking about art and creativity and different mediums and kind of philosophizing. And she's 7 years younger than the other sister, the middle sister, and she was just listening, and then she felt like she wanted to say something, and we were giving her time, and she said, "I just love the art of the realness." And we had a really big laugh about it, right? Because it was so earnest. And we were just like, what does that mean? And it's funny, I was sitting there in the conference, and I was watching everything, and I was like, that came to my mind. The art of the realness is right here. Like, I know now what she meant. And so it's interesting about the real part, right? Because I never got to experience your community in this medium. And yet when I was there, I could feel that. And so it looked real to me. And I was also impressed by how, and again, I saw Sherry really set that precedent, that there's no holds barred. Like, we are here. We're the same people. We're just, it's the art of the realness now, the art of the realness. And so I just saw that happening on every level. And so I guess for me, I thought it was real. I thought it was interesting how I was observing how people were talking to each other who have never met face to face, but it looked like they were taking up where they left off. So it's not like there was this awkward, it was just like, boom, boom. It was like everybody was right in there, right in the pocket, as we say as musicians, in the pocket. And so, yeah, I felt like that was really cool too, just watching that whole thing. So it was real for me. I grew up with lots of moving and lots of adapting as a child. And I'm very good at going through the motions, and kind of like, I like the challenge of doing something different, but I also like to be able to be a fringe person, and because there's safety in that. And then I kind of looked around, and I thought, I think everybody here is a fringe person. I think I've met my people, my people. So, it was like kind of wild, because I felt like everybody was coming at it from a different angle, like the spokes on a wheel, and meeting there in the middle. It was like everybody's got this different way of approaching that one thing in the middle, but we're all coming in from the outer areas, so yeah. That's what I think.
Yeah, everybody's loving that, Trace. Close encounters of the fringe kind, says Offrel. I had another question in my head now, but I don't remember what it was. I don't write stuff down. It's like whenever I do anything like this on Grail Country, when I first started on Grail Country, I used to write everything down. I was like, okay, don't veer from the notes. And, because I was like, oh, what am I going to say? And now I'm like, well, God just said to me, stop that. Just stop that, And so I don't know. There's something beautiful about floundering. Martin Shaw said that actually. It might have been in the conversation I had with him online on this channel. He said there's just something beautiful about watching someone search for a word, or, you know, travel out into the distance and think, you know, like just watching that happening, right? And so, yeah, I forgot my question. That's all
Well,
that to say.
I think Megan was. Did Megan? Did you have a response to the art of the realness?
Oh no, I forgot.
Oh,
There we go. Yes. Sorry. See, there
I'm
I
even
am.
fringe within the fringe. No.
Yeah. Thanks, Tracy. Thank you, Tracy.
Yeah, it reminded me of something that I brought up in our S story group too. Like thinking about what is real, you know, and like when I got home from this conference, like the second I was alone, I just like sobbed for like probably an hour straight.
Wow.
And it was like the exact same feeling as when I in junior high and high school I used to go to this camp up in Oregon. I was a marching band geek, you know, so very much fringe kind of person. And I always felt fringe even in my own band at home. And I always felt fringe in school and in friend groups and everything. Like, and so going to these camps, like I felt seen and mirrored, you know, like at a younger age. And this was that exact same feeling.
Yeah.
Like my therapist calls me a meaning maker. I call it like horses on a racetrack in my head at all times. Like every single thing that happens, I'm just like, you know, my head is spinning, like trying to make sense of it, trying to put a name to it, like trying to make sense of other people's actions. And, you know, at this point in my life, like how do I therapize this and be like the best human that I can be in this situation? And like, you know, trying to step away from being hard on myself and trying to step into being kind to myself, and how does that relate to being kind to others. And so yeah, it's just like, I mean, you can probably already tell it's just like, you know, in my head all the time, like just spinning like a carousel. So yeah, I mean, this group of people, it was like, you know, this is a group of meaning makers, like all of us, which is a small percentage of the world, I think. I don't think, you know, it's just hard to find people that are thinking so deeply in this same way. And so yeah, it was like when I was up there, like I was trying to go outside and just breathe as deeply as I could through my nose, like as many times as possible, because that scent is like so intoxicating to me, and like that is the most real scent in the world to me. Like that smell of like all encompassing like pine and cedar and nature and all that kind of stuff. And so in that sense, to me, it was like, this is the most real I've ever felt, like with these people, with this environment. But something I was thinking about in our estuary group too was, you know, like if you think about, you know, 50 years ago or something in like the Midwest, like there's this idea of the barn raising. You know, like there's your community, and it's a bunch of people that you you probably know really well because you've lived there a long time, and you all don't always see eye to eye, but what you do see eye to eye on is that you take care of each other as a community. Whenever your community needs help, you're there to support them, and I feel like that's kind of another reality that's a bit lost in our modern times, especially with the internet, because you can choose to go online to your like most real community and kind of block out your other kind of real community, right? Like you can choose your silo instead of being in real life and saying like, this is where I live. And you know, I may not have much in common with these people other than ours, you know, other than a lot of real life things like where we live and what we're going through and that kind of thing. And so that's also something I kind of struggle with too. Like I grew up in Silicon Valley, California, which is like the polar opposite of a barn raising community. You know, it's like everybody's just in their like, you know, very expensive homes and going to their desk jobs and coming home and staying inside their very expensive homes. And, you know, when you pass people on the street, you don't really say hi to them. You just kind of put horse blinders on and walk past. Um, and, um, and there's a little more of that kind of community feeling in Utah, but not as much. And so, yeah, it's kind of like, we created this like super strong reality in one sense, but in another sense, like now that I'm back here, like of course starting an estuary group here would be awesome, but I also kind of struggle with like, you know, do I need to be trying harder to create like a barn raising kind of community, try to be that change, you know, which it's hard. Like I live alone, I work full time. I've kind of I got sick when I got home, and now my body is like pretty burned out. I've had to be out of work for a few days because I'm just it's all a lot to like be doing life alone, you know. And so yeah, but I want to, in my hopes and dreams, like I want to be that person for other people that they can call on if they need something. But being more of a fringe person, I'm not often maybe called on top of people's minds. Yeah. So yeah, it was funny, like coming into the conference, like I was kind of oscillating between like, oh, you know, maybe I'll meet someone here because these seem like the type of people that I'd be interested in, you know, and then kind of bashing myself for that thought, like, okay, like don't come into this with expectations, like come into it with an open mind, like that's a junior high way of thinking, like just, you know, be cool, like calm down a little bit. And then when I got in my estuary group, it was like all married guys, like all of them. And so I was like, man, what are the odds that like clearly there's something there's something like God saying to me here, like there's something I'm meant to glean here, like how am I, you know, what is my reality here? And so I just tried to learn as much as I could, and a lot of the guys were talking about how their wives will be like, yeah, that's so interesting. Like, can you just wash the dishes now? Like, you know, and so I'm like, you know, how, you know, I'm thinking about like, how do you marry somebody who's not also a meaning maker? Like how, you know, I couldn't even imagine that. My mom is like a huge meaning maker, obviously. I'm like mother, like daughter, and my dad is not. My dad is Chinese and very frugal, and he's just by the book and get things done, but yeah, coming into this group of guys, it was like a very healing experience, like seeing so many men. I mean, growing up in this age, I went through like the very like feminist kind of thing, like all men suck, and like I've been hurt by lots of boys and men in my life, and like, blah blah blah. And so I've overturned that in my mind in the last few years, but being in this group of all married guys where like every one of them, like, they want to be the best men that they can. They want to be the best husbands and fathers that they can. And seeing all these beautiful men like talk about their struggles and their lives and stuff like that, it was like such a healing experience.
Wow.
That I wouldn't have had if there was even one single guy in the room and I was like, carousel in my brain the whole time, like, just like spinning. Like it was really a chance for me to just like let go of like any expectations or any anxieties or anything like that, and just relax and just be able to glean so much information and beauty from that, and kind of think about, like, how do I want to fit into a future relationship, like, and how can I attempt to like be more empathetic to a future partner or anything like that, kind of seeing this perspective. So yeah, I mean, yeah, multiple definitions of real to
That's
me.
really,
and yeah.
that's really beautiful, Megan.
Thank you.
Just thinking about the fact that you ended up in a group full of married men, it's like God's just like, let's just calm you down.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
And then you get to absorb all this, realness from these men that is really hard to access on a superficial, neighborly, whatever, even church going life, right?
Yes.
And that gave you such a wonderful insight, and I love that. I love it. I mean, we could talk probably for hours about this, but what I was thinking, I don't know how much time you guys have, so if anybody has to leave, just put up your hand, let me know. But I thought I would open it up since we've got some people here, and if there's anything pressing that they would like to ask you, then they can, because I just can't think of all the questions that everybody wants to ask. So I'm going to post a link in the chat. And if anybody wants to jump in and ask Tracy, Megan, or Graham a question about their experience at the conference.
I'll be right back. Sorry. I'll be right back.
That I haven't covered, then please feel free to do so. In the meanwhile, I feel weird talking about my first impressions, but they really were, because I hadn't been to any of the conferences that this little corner has had, and they've had quite a few of them. So this was my first time, and it was super personal to me because it was with, Nate was hosting it, and I'd never met Nate, and I've been working closely with him for 5 years or something like that. And at one point my health was really not good. And I went through this period of like, am I ever going to be able to touch these people before I die? Because it was like imminent. And I just thought, Lord, please don't let that happen. Like, I just really need to, to have that experience. And yeah, so I got to do it, and it was impactful in the sense that I didn't think I would ever be able to do it, for one thing. I had like a moment in my life, that I thought, oh, this might not ever happen. And then just all the memories of the interactions. And I mean, you know, we've had lots of really heated arguments. and we've worked through stuff over like long periods of discussion. And it was just overwhelming to me. Like, honestly, like the first time I touched Nate, I just wept in his neck. I'm like, oh, that was unexpected. But anyway, we've got somebody here, Caviar Cowboys. I don't know who you are, but I'm going to let you on, and hopefully it's not anything. Sometimes we get bombed in these things, but here we go. Hi, welcome.
I'm from Australia. Are you all American?
Do you have a question for any of the people who were at the conference? Are you familiar with the corner? Are you new to the corner? Or what's your situation?
Oh no, I just like camming up in random YouTube chat rooms.
That's what I thought.
If I like the chat room, I'll come back into it.
Okay, well, how about I'm going to remove you so that people who were at the conference or have questions for Tracy, Graham, and Megan can jump on. But I'm not removing you because I don't like you. I'm just removing you because you haven't been there and you're not part of the community. But please remain part of the community. We love having new people here. Do you have a name, or are you just Caviar Cowboy? Sam, it's good to see you. It's good to meet you. And but I'm gonna take you from the panel. And if anybody else wants to join, please do. We're just doing kind of like a focused question period here. So, but thanks for joining, Sam.
All right.
Bye-bye. Yeah. See, there you go, Sam. Join us, Marcus says. Whoops. Here we go. Join us, he says. Join them in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Slack says, come down to the hive mind. That's what they call the chat. Yes, people, somebody jump in. Do any of you have any questions that you want to ask?
You as in us?
Yes, you, Tracy, Megan, and Graham.
Questions. Go ahead, Graham.
Oh, yeah. A very practical question, which is how have people managed this? How do you like? How do you keep up the interaction online and in the Discord, and like how does it actually work day to day? Because you know, I don't have a job right now, and I still don't. It's like it's overwhelming just to stay up a little bit, you know. For example, I'm like, okay, now I want to know what people are thinking about. So, all right, so I'll watch the latest thing that Paul Vanderklay put out because you know people are thinking about that, and it's like he's been unpacking this other video, you know, Jordan Hall and Pajo and Rebecca, and like, okay, well, all right, I'm gonna watch that because that's what Vanderklay's talking about, and then it's just like it's just like I can't keep up with what people seem to be talking about and thinking about, much less like started some email chains with people I met at the conference. You know, I love you so much. I'm sorry I haven't written back yet. You know, like it's just I get exhausted. They're like the screens are exhausting to me. And you know, it's a beautiful sunny day. My children are playing outside. I'll go join them, you know, pretty soon. But it takes a lot of, I don't know. How do you stay in touch with people? I don't know. There's always live streams that I'm like stumble into, and it's like it's been an hour and a half. I don't know what the conversation is. You know, I like watch a little bit. Like, you know, I want to be. So I'm just saying I want to be a part of it all, and just trying a little bit to be a part of it all is like way too much. And I miss everybody, and but yeah, that's my question.
Matt Frill's got some good advice. Listen to what calls you. Don't feel obligated to catch it all. And here's, okay, go Trace.
Start your own, Graham.
Sorry,
own.
what was it? That's another thing I got to keep up with.
Well, here's the thing about that. If you do start your own, you do it on your terms. You know?
Start your own what? Like YouTube channel?
Well, whatever this is. I don't even know, because technology is not my friend. But yeah, do something where you can come in and out, you know?
Well, he's doing that on Sabbath Empire, in my opinion, because there's lots of interaction on Substack.
Oh,
like there's comment section, and you know, you can get into discussion there. But being a part of this community, jumping on the Discord, checking out what people are saying, it can be quite daunting, because first of all, there's a lingo here. People have a language that they speak that you got to catch up with. Like there's a vocabulary, you know, like I've always said, we need a glossary of terms or something section, you know. And they're coming from all different sources. They're coming from Pajot and Vervaeke and Jordan Greenhall and Paul Vanderklay and each other, and you know. And I can tell you from the many years I've been involved here that a lot of time gets spent defining terms. Like it just does. It has to happen that way because, well, that's my whole shtick about getting meaning across, but that's another topic. And so I know the feeling, Grant, because I also have a busy life, right? I got to get outside. I got to shovel manure. I got to turn compost. I got to trim feet and shear sheep and all, you know, can and clean the house, whatever. And so if I'm doing anything that is busy work, just busy work, and I have access to the internet because I don't have a cell phone either, I just listen in or contribute to conversation. And if I'm busy, I'm busy. And the way I see those two worlds colliding is that oftentimes when I'm not not involved in discussion, I'm able to ruminate on all the discussion. And then either I gain more insight or I have new questions or whatever the case is. So I'll stop talking now. And Diana, welcome. I don't think I've ever met you, but it's nice to see you.
Hello. Can you guys hear me okay?
We hear you.
Yay. Okay. Awesome. Yeah, no, I linger around very in the shadows of things. I don't typically talk in comment sections or do this. I've never gotten on a live stream before, but I was very well asked because I'm assuming, and forgive me if this has already been like laid out. I just saw you guys were on here, and we're talking about what I'm assuming is like getting together in real life.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I'm curious if anything, did it change anything? You know, do people feel like it changed something? If that is a specific enough question.
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, does Tracy, Graham, do you guys want to, Megan, do you want to tackle that? One of you?
Change anything, Diana? You mean having been together in person and now being back interacting online, something has changed by having been in person?
Yeah, I think that part of it is interesting to me, that that fact that like getting together in person is this like weird I don't know, this weird moment but the fact that you immediately followed it by like, and now we're back online, it's like, to me, that's what's interesting about it, is like, does it change anything, or does being together in person become this like weird anomalous like blip in what's essentially like a disembodied connection? And then like being together in person is this like, whoa, weird, almost like a dream. And it's like, okay, now we woke back up and we're back on the screen. You know, that's how I think of it. I don't have any experience doing that, because my only like really close online relationship that I had that I met in person was I'm married to him now. So it's like, because it changed something, and it wasn't able to go back. So I'm very interested in how people who have carried on with such a connection, what happens when you meet in person? Does it change anything, or is, you know, yeah, sorry.
Megan.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think that's what we were kind of talking about. Like, it was like a very grief-filled week for me, and I heard other people say similar things, because online connection's pretty difficult for me. Like, I really prefer in person in any case. Like, anytime I need to have like a discussion with somebody and it has to be on the phone or through texting or something, like, I just abhor it. Like, I'd just much rather be in person. And so being able to have um such a heart-wrenching opportunity to be in person with so many people that I really felt like instantly connected with, and then being ripped apart from all of them like very quickly. It's created a really hard couple of weeks for sure. That's how it's changed me, I think.
Alan, while you were there at the conference, can you speak to that? Has it changed anything for you?
Yeah, it was great, especially because McNeil wasn't there. So, I knew I'd really enjoy it. So it was wonderful. I mean, I will say, I guess, like, the fact that I had the hard, like, I'll say that I had like the hard road to hoe path with the corner of, like, at first it was just PVK stuff, and then I like was interested, tried to do some random things, but I was like, I have no idea what this is. And then finally I just, like, I knew zero people, but I went to Chino, like, but I just went anyway, and then that sort of proved Chino, like, this was a real thing. And that, like, that sort of like putting in a lot of effort and slowly gaining trust and being more interested in the corner made it so that there wasn't one moment where I'm like, oh, this is amazing and wonderful, and really put it in perspective of, like, I've actually had like a fair number of negative, and not super negative, but like, oh, this was annoying and it took a long time to figure out what was going on here, and then nothing good came of it. And so those sort of negative interactions sort of tamper down the, like, obviously I love the Northwest Estuary, and Chino was good. I went with Chino somewhat trepidatiously, and then it turned out to be wonderful. So
Right.
those sort of, like, it prevents you from glorifying, like, unnecessarily, because it did take a lot of, like, time and effort and money and pain. I had no idea what was going on in the Discord. I tried to pop into the chats and it sucked, and that's no one's fault, but it just wasn't my je ne sais quoi. And so finding the gems and, like, meeting people, McMo, Luke, I mean, now Graham, now after this one, Sherry, like, that's all the gems that I have accumulated, but that was after spitting out a lot of seeds. So not glorifying and not being like, oh, this is perfect, and if we all just lived in a commune, we'd love each other, because I'd probably hate you more than the people that are around me now if we all lived on a commune together. So it's like this special thing that exists in this special way for only short periods of time, and just being okay with that. And it sucks because in some sense we want to just always have the moment in Estuary where everyone's crying and laughing and hugging, and you just want to live in that forever. But it's like that's the shadow of the corner, is like that, this, when you start replacing the holistic view of your life with just like, I just want to, I always want to be at the Taylor Swift concert, I always want to be eating chocolate cake, I always want to, cotton candy for breakfast, great. That's like this stuff is supposed to point us to how to like bring it back to our communities and our friends and family. And
Yeah,
often
yeah.
in a quiet way that's not even like, I learned this from the corner. It's like, maybe just learn to listen. If you can learn listening here and then apply it elsewhere, that's a win for sure. So that's
Mhm.
my little rant of just like, don't turn it in, like, by putting it high up and making it wholly imperfect, we are actually taking the corner out of where it should be. And it should be a little silly and a little like rolling your eyes at it. And we should have interactions that are annoying and bad because it reminds us of what it really is.
Yeah. I would just like to point out that Matthew Parlato said in one of the live streams he was on with me recently that when he was driving Marcus Shera back to the airport, Marcus said to him, "Now we just go back to loving each other on the internet. Nothing's changed." Right? And I liked that because, as Graham pointed out, that's exactly what he saw we had been doing. He saw that in real life, like coming at it from the other end, right? Like, so he meets everybody first and then he gets on to the online space. And so Diana, I think it has changed things for a lot of people. But here's the thing. I've mentioned this in regards to these kinds of changes because a lot of people experienced coming home as a bit of a sadness, right? And I think sadnesses come from a longing for something in the future. Sadness is kind of future oriented, right? And Rilke's my therapist. He says that you need to spend time examining those sadnesses because those are the moments when your future steps into you and changes everything. And then he compares it to a house that a guest has entered, has changed. It's not in a way that you can say, "Oh, it's changed in this big way. Now it looks different or it feels, it's a subtle change that you can't really put your finger on." But Rilke says, if you stay with it, it will become your fate. And like ever since the conference, I've really been thinking about that line in it's Letters to a Young Poet, one of the letters, because I never quite understood what he was talking about there, in that for a long, long time. And then I'm like, oh, that's what he's talking about. Because I've actually had that experience where I've had a sadness, I've had a longing for something. And then all of a sudden I find myself standing in the middle of it and completely unaware that I'm actually there. I'm in it. And it's so weird how stupid we can be as human beings, right? We're just like, we're still longing for the thing, and God's like, woo, take a look around. And you're like, oh my God, this is it, right? So I don't know how that helps you, Diana, but I just had to say those things.
Yeah, great. I appreciate, the ability to ask that question and the thought, and I guess I'll keep lingering and lurking and watching to see, what happens with what are we doing up here? And I can say we because like I've been watching you guys.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah.
Well, I can say though, and maybe Tracy could testify to this because she's my sister, that my family has actually said things to me like, "You're just different now. You're being transformed." Helena told me that, Tracy. And and my husband has said to me, "This is good for you, being in this community," because I'm always checking in, like, "Are you still good with this?" Because I do actually spend a lot of time, but I do it as a well, I like Graham's story of sending the gifts ahead, kind of thing. So I'm very intentional. I have time. I'm retired. I'm older. I don't have kids. I've got my house work down to a science. So, I can divvy up my time here, and I do it in service to the kingdom of God. That's how I feel about it. So, but I wanted to give McMo a chance now he's been sitting there for a while. Sorry about that, McMo.
Hey, can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, we hear you good.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'm actually right behind Diane in traffic.
That's
just
funny.
just kidding. Yeah, I am certainly a part of this online community. I have yet to go to one of the conferences, but I did recently just meet two of my first in flesh friends. One of them was just 2 days ago with Pete from Strange Theology, which was a lot of fun to hang out with him for a little while. I have a question, but I first wanted to say I loved, Graham, your talk. I loved the heat and the shade that you casted upon the ESV. This Bible verse, I have the ESV tattooed on my arm, though, brother. So I feel like we would definitely be friends because I felt like I liked the ribbing. It tickled, and so I appreciated it. But my question actually has to do with something that me and Pete actually talked about, and it was how C.S. Lewis talked about when they had a death in their friend group, that it was also the loss of the parts of each of them that their friend had kind of brought out. And so specifically for Tracy and Megan, I was wondering if you saw anything, Tracy and Sherry, or if you saw anything in your mom that like you hadn't seen before, or that kind of clicked into place once you saw all the weirdos that they've been hanging out with online. And then kind of a two-parter on that was kind of like, did you feel yourself, and Megan, you kind of hit on this on what you shared, but like, were there parts of yourselves that seemed to kind of like, stretch out and shake off the rust and say like, oh, wow, this is a part of me that I have not gotten to express? So that would be kind of my two-part question. What did you see in your loved one who brought you? And then what did you see in yourself?
Trace, you want to go
I love
first?
that question.
No, go.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm just saying, I love that question, and I'll think about it for myself. I gotta go now, so thank you all. I'll see
Love
you
you,
later.
Graham. Thank
Love
you
you
for
too.
being
Yeah.
here.
All
Bye.
right. Love you all. Bye.
Go ahead, Megan. I feel like you were that was resonating with you a bit there.
Oh, I mean, I'm sure it was with you too. Yeah, I think as I've gotten older, like my mom has been someone that I talk with a lot more. I mean, I won't get too far into it, but our relationship has been hard growing up, I think. But yeah, just getting older and just trying to be more of an adult and more loving to my family and everything. Yeah, I've just really gotten to appreciate like how much we have in common, and yeah, she's the meaning maker in my life, so we talk all the time about really deep things. And so yeah, coming to the conference, and I remember like when she was in one of the panels, I was like kind of like watching her. She sat next to Paul Vanderklay, and he said something, and she just like broke down, like hysterically laughing and like leaning on his shoulder and stuff. And it just made me so happy to see her in an environment where she feels like so seen and mirrored like I did. And I think both of us kind of struggle with that in the other reality, right? Like not the estuary reality, but the real life reality. So yeah, it just honestly brought me a lot of joy to see her have so many people that I know that she's been connected with online for a long time, and she'll send me like videos all the time to watch, and I just don't have like the mental capacity for it a lot of times. So, you know, I just really appreciate that there are people that she can, because she has like a gigantic brain, like 10 times as big as mine. And like most of the time when I try to watch her channel, I'm just like, I have no idea what the hell you're talking about, but I'm so proud of you. Like, you're so smart. And so glad that you found people that are on your level, that you can talk to. Because yeah, I love talking with her, but I know she's got a huge brain that she needs to let out to somebody or it's gonna explode. So yeah, I just there's a lot of joy in that, and there's a lot of joy in getting to experience that for myself too, on a much less intellectual level, but still a very deep and meaningful one. Just getting to experience some of what she's experienced over the last few years.
Yeah, most of us here are not as smart as your mom. So just so you know.
she's just beyond. I don't know. She can follow anything like so quickly. Yeah, I'm always in awe of her for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Were you done, Megan?
Yes, go for it.
Yeah, that's good. I'm hearing what you're saying, and I can feel that for sure. I think it was really cool for me, like I said, to see it through my sister's eyes. But I actually started writing something, like really started. It just because my thoughts when I was sitting, especially in the conference, and I was just kind of looking at all these heads, you know, everybody's sitting there, and they were all looking up at the front, and I was just kind of an eagle vision of what is this, you know, what am I looking at here? And I was really captivated by the diversity in the room, because I had spoken to a few people, and I thought, wow, this is a really diverse group of people, that you know, coming at it, like I said, like the spokes, like the wheel and the spokes on the wheel. And I had this thought that I said, somehow the way you look at me is how I'm seeing them. And that was a little conversation with God that I had that moment. And I was looking at them, and I was looking at what was happening. And I was watching my sister, you know, really in her element, being who she's designed to be, as far as I'm concerned, or a part of who she's designed to be, because she's many things. And I saw, like I said, I don't know if you caught this at the beginning, Mi'kmaq, but that the hospitality that she carries in who she is, and the love that just comes from her for the people in the community, especially, I think it was really captivating to many, and it really set the pace for what it is. But also, I think it called her up and showed you, Sherry, who you really are. And we have this little chuckle once in a while, because she said, "Can I talk about the mother thing?"
Sure.
Because over the years, she's like, "Oh, I'm just having a really hard time with this idea, because sometimes I'm getting put in this box, like the mother figure, you know, the mother figure." And I said, "Well, Sherry, you know, some people need that. Like they really need to have a matriarchal figure in their lives to speak these things that you know, that need to be said." And so she was kind of fighting with that, wrestling with that quite a bit. And then I watched people walk into the B&B, and how she'd embrace them and hug them and rub their face and say, "I just want to touch you. I just need to tell you how much I care about you. I love you. I'm so happy to see you." And she'd take them two at a time and hug them and everything. And so, just kind of the sister little poke, I said to her later on in the day, I said, "So you have a problem with being called mother?" She said, "Yeah, I do. I have, yeah." I said, "Then stop acting like one." She just kind of looked at me.
She
Because-
did, and it really, and I have to say, like Diana was saying, has anything changed? That's changed for me since the conference. I'm like, oh, fine. All right, then,
embrace it. But I think it's also because what you're experiencing is defining that definition is changing for you. And it's becoming more meaningful.
Mm.
It's not just mother. And we could launch into the cosmos with this whole thing. We saw Northern Lights on the way home, and I felt it was on the way home from Estuary, the thing, whatever you call it, where the water meets the other water, and it's called estuary. But anyway, and we were standing outside, and the Northern Lights were on display, and I was just like, woo! I just felt like I launched. I was doing a little trip around Venus, and I was really hanging out there for a little while in the cosmos, because that whole thing, and I guess that's part. I'm sorry, I'm talking way up here, and I am going to land. I'm going to land real soon.
Don't land too soon.
No, not too soon.
Is that I felt like what I was watching was a movement, and I know that sounds so cliche. I literally don't know anything about John Vervaeke. And on the way home, I was like, so tell me about John Vervaeke. What is this thing? Because, Jordan Peterson, he's been my guy. I dip in and out of that. Peugeot, I love because he's Canadian and he's from Quebec, and I feel like he's my cousin probably. And, I've been kind of dipping in and out of that. My world is so different here, and my education has been boots on the ground. Like I'm kind of like, I always tell people I have my GSD. I don't have a PhD, but I do have a GSD, which stands for Get Shit Done. So, excuse my French for those who don't like that word, but and so it was really good for me just to watch, kind of like not knowing all the lingo and just trying to put it together. And and so I just loved what I saw in my sister in that. And when I hugged people like Nate and Michael Martin and some of the others that I was able to embrace along with her, I was able to say thank you for loving my sister. And thank you for being a part of her life. And I'm going to put that out there for all of you that are, because I've seen that change in her, and I'm very moved by it. And Sherry, did you see that? So then a couple of times it was so hilarious, because she's just getting over the mother thing. She's like, well, okay, I'll take that. See how it goes. And then about 3 times people were like, you remind me of my grandmother. I said, oh my God, next level right there, Sherry.
Yeah, I was just about to say, like Corey came up and he was like calling my mom like the grandmother of the group, and she was like, am I really that old? And I was like, sorry, like you are a grandma in real life. So
And this is Megan's mom right here. This is Karen's comment.
Yes.
They see me as grandmother, get over it.
Yes.
And I see it as like, she has so much wisdom and knowledge and all that, but of course she will take it to the age thing instead. So
Well, the one thing that I've spoken quite a bit about with my sister over the years, she'll converse with all you guys, and then we get on the phone together when I get a minute and I'm cleaning and making beds because I have accommodations here, or I'm just doing whatever. If I'm traveling, we get on the phone and we've talked about this. Oh my God, I can't remember what I was going to say.
I'll talk to these people and then I'll talk to you. That's how you started it.
Oh yeah. And we've just been able to process through a lot of this stuff together and see where we meet, in my experience. And like I've mentioned, my community has, my parents did their part, which was everything, because they gave me life. And then when I was 19, I came here, and I've been here for 40 years. And I've had the honor and privilege of growing up in a way as a young woman at 19 and a mother, and now a grandmother in community. And what my community has taught me is being a grandmother is an honor, and it's in protocol. Being a grandmother is a knowledge keeper. And that's why grandmothers are so valued. I've spoken a little bit about the wheel and the spokes, because I have
Tracy, I'm just gonna ask you to, because I don't think anybody really knows. I mean, some people might, but what kind of community are you in?
Well, I'm in a First Nations community in Canada, and I yeah, that's my community and my family. And yeah, and so this idea around the circle and the spokes, the medicine wheel has also meant a lot to me, and the whole dynamic around that, and that's what I'm seeing played out, I guess, is where I'm coming, kind of landing in the middle, is what I see played out is this longing and hunger in our current culture and popular culture, which I haven't really been a part of much, to be honest. And so that was really beautiful for me to sit there and to look at all these young people sitting there. And I was thinking in my heart, this is why I wrote that thing, somehow the way that you look at me is how I'm seeing them, is I thought, I'm so proud of you guys for being here. Like, holy crap. Mm-hmm. Who takes the time out to come and sit and listen to people talking about these deep things in life? And that was my feeling. I thought, I'm so proud of these young women, these young men who want to step out of the norm and look into these things. And so, yeah, alongside my sister, be able to see it as well through her lens. So I have a little bit more to say about that later, but I don't know. I don't want to go rabbit trailing right now, but
I'm going to sign off and just listen back on YouTube, but thank you guys.
Thanks, McMo. Thanks for coming. Mark Parker.
Hi, Mark.
Do you have a question?
Not so much a question.
Mark, I just want to let everybody else watching know that you were also at the conference.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, Karen Wong is the first time I listened to her speech live, I was there. I told Sherry I had a raging headache and nothing stuck. But in retrospect, I think she was possibly her presentation was possibly the most important to my post-estuary response. It's interesting, all of my content on my own channel, my response to people locally is all about being a man towards women. And I think we seem to be, it's an issue that I think the Lord wants the corner to wrestle with right now. And I think it began at the conference. And it's about and I think this mother thing, very briefly, can I finish? Let me finish one thought, Jerry. This issue about being a mother, the mother and I think the mother and the father. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of people who need mothers and fathers in the corner.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so that they can become the fullness of mothers and fathers themselves, and men and women. Beautiful. And just like a household, a family, it's going to be a rough ride until we're through it. But I think that's a big theme, and it started in the conference for me.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think Lucas pointed out up here somewhere, right here. More women than men in a live stream is a once in a lifetime. Good job, everyone.
Women are
Yeah.
about to break through big time around here, I think, and that's really good.
But yeah. I mean, there have been people who've tried to start like women only discords, on things like that. Excuse me, things like that. And Emily, who's in the comment section, and I both were like, nope, not that. and I can't really say why I don't want to be in a, women only thing. But it just never felt like, it never really felt like a great idea. Because I've, like I said, Mark, I've really invested myself in this place, and I feel like I'm sending out gifts like Jacob to Esau, and I'm trying to cross all the cultural lines, whether it's male, female, young and old, boomers and non-boomers at this point, and even political divides, right? I want to maintain a mediatory role here. And so I'm not into sequestering myself off, we got enough of that. We got lots of that in the culture today. So.
No, well, it's not about sequestering. Sorry, my dog's going a little crazy out here, so I have to mute myself and lose control of the camera.
True.
No. It's not about sequestering. It's about presence and you being heard and us. I think it's the mothers and the fathers being here for the ones who need mothers and fathers, and that's good. There's not going to be a girl's side and a boy's side. None of that nonsense. I don't think we need that sort of thing. Not that some people might need it. What do I know? But that's not what I'm called to, and I don't think that's what you're called to, Sherry. I mean, Lord knows.
No, you're right, Mark. You got insight on that, and I love that about you and your participation here. And I do think that you stand as an elder in this place. I mean, you got the beard, the whole thing, But no, I do think you do, and that's also been one of the things. Like, I remember starting to listen to John Vervaeke, and he's on this wisdom quest, and I'm like, well, wait a minute, John. I mean, really, what you're talking about is the loss of elders, and the reason I know about this is because of my sister's community. Because I have seen in First Nations communities that whenever an elder goes, there's a huge mourning process. Because it's not just the loss of the person, it's the loss of knowledge. It's the loss of history. They know things, and those things can't be written down. They have to be lived out, right? So they pass those on to their children and grandchildren by raising them up, right? And so when they're gone, all of that is gone. It's gone. And it's going to channel itself out in the body of another person who they have, had influence over, their own daughters or sons. But it's going to be that person's interpretation of that wisdom, right? And that's how wisdom gets handed down. But we, in the modern world, we have completely sequestered off our elderly. We've dumbed them down with all kinds of medications. We visit them once a week or maybe once a month. We don't want to be put out by caring for them, and that's, in my opinion, it sounds super simple, but I actually think that's why we've lost wisdom, because that's where it comes from. But anyway, I want to give Jess a chance. Hi, Jess, you're here.
Hi.
Jess was also at the conference.
I was.
Mm-hmm.
I mostly just joined to even out the man versus woman ratio. Just kidding, but there's joy. I just wanted to, I just piggyback on your comment, Sherry, which is that, like my grandparents didn't have funerals because they didn't want one, and so we didn't have one. And I love my grandparents, but they were not. They weren't passing down wisdom. I'll just say that. They were, my grandma on my mom's side was very hospitable, like definitely like cooked and was welcoming and stuff. And my grandparents on my dad's side were a little bit more trying to keep the kids from messing things up kind of grandparents. But I love them. Like they were great. But like, so there's no problem, but there was also like, I don't know, like I did get some stuff from my, how do you get wisdom? Like I got stuff from my mom's mom as she cooked and took care of us and stuff. And then, but there was something about the whole generation, the baby boomers, or that was the greatest generation. So my grandpa was World War II soldier, and there was kind of a divide that happened between them and the baby boomers, where for some reason there was at least a decrease in the amount of wisdom transference. People kind of took a back seat and let the Department of Education handle the kids and let the social programs kind of handle this or that. And there were Elks Club and stuff like that, but Elks Club membership has fallen off and church membership has fallen off, and like all the institutions that sort of were there to help mitigate some of this stuff have fallen off. And I was just thinking about that when you were commenting. I don't have a question.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've thought about this too. I don't really want to get into the boomer thing because Mark and I could go on forever about it. But maybe Tracy could speak to this better because she's actually in it. I'm not in it. This is the world I see through my sister's eyes. But I do know that like there's a lot of dysfunctional families in First Nations community because of history, period. I'll just leave it at that. But there is still an incredible amount of reverence, honor, position in those communities for the elders. And the elders are not perfect people. And so, like, I don't know how cultural this is to Western Christians, because essentially that's what we're in, right? That's the water we swim in, is Western Christianity. Do we have to be perfect to pass on wisdom? Like,
I hope not.
I'm sure Tracy knows of elders who were not perfect, but who still were able to pass on wisdom. And what comes to my mind is when I was in Telegraph Creek, the people that were left there were old hippies. They made their way there. A lot of them were draft dodgers from the Vietnam War. They were Americans. And, they made funky houses and they did things in weird ways because they didn't have that ancestral wisdom on how to build something, where to find water, how to plant a garden, what's the right time for harvest, right? That kind of ancestral wisdom. If super utilitarian. But man, if you don't know those things and you're living in the wilderness, you're building houses that leak, walls that fall down, wells that go dry, and your life gets really complicated. And then I moved to this area where we've got generational ranchers here. People have been farming the land for many, many years as families. And they'll just straight up say, oh, no, you can't do that. That won't work. And, and you go, well, why? Well, because it just doesn't. And then they'll show you something and you do it and it lasts. And that's the generational wisdom that gets passed on, right? So the buildings all look the same. All the barns are built the same way. All the houses are built the same way. You know, you got the interior roof, you got the sod on top, you got the fir shingles. Why? Because it works. And that wisdom gets passed on from generation to generation. And so for me, the difference between those two communities was that you've got people who are reinventing the wheel every time they do something because they have no clue how to do it. And that's a waste, in my very practical mindset, that's a waste of time. You know, you could actually have the thing done, be living in comfort, and, you know, spend your hours now doing something more productive, whether it's for yourself, your family, or your community. But oh no, you're just, you know, digging your fourth well because you haven't got a clue where to put it, you know?
Yeah.
So anyways, those are my observations about that kind of wisdom, Jess, because it's not necessarily sit down, son, I'm going to pass on my wisdom to you and you are going to, no, it's a lived experience. And it's people saying things to you that you don't like, no, don't do that. Like my mother-in-law, she's 93. Don't do that. I said, well, why? Because we don't do that way here. Well, why? Because that's the way it is. And you're like, Rick, you know, I'm a why person, right? Give me a reason. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
And then you end up, I just want to say this one thing, you end up squeezing yourself into that thing because you have to. Because if you don't, everybody around you will tell you that you have to. and you learn something from it. You learn something about yourself. You learn something about what works and what doesn't work. You learn something about submission and obedience in the face of whatever it is, something you don't like, right?
Mm-hmm.
You might think you're better than, or you might think you know more, or you might even know an easier way, but you have to do it anyway. So anyway, I'll stop talking.
Mm-hmm.
Well, just the transfer of wisdom. There's two things happening, it's obviously two parties are involved. The wise person must know how to be in the world,
Mm-hmm.
and be towards the person who's going to receive their wisdom, and that person has to have the humility to recognize it. I think that's the transfer. It's not, I'm going to tell you, that's the least wise way of, at least the least effective way to transfer deep knowledge. You must do that. The wise person just is, and then the person who's going to grow in wisdom has to be humble enough to see it and take it and absorb it.
Mm-hmm.
That's a challenge for both. It's very hard to just be in the world and not tell.
Mm-hmm.
Very hard. And it's very hard to take it when you see that, because to accept wisdom really is like, I'm not wise in this situation, or I'm not, there's something I need to learn. But to realize I need to learn something, that's a hard thing to take sometimes, because I want to know it all.
Mm-hmm.
Tracy, I just would like to give you a chance to speak to what because you've seen this actual phenomenon, and I know because you've told me about it, of wisdom transfer, and the way that works in your community. Maybe you could tell us a little bit more about what you've observed.
Yeah, I've been, like I said, I've been a welcomed member of this community for 40 years. And it's been an honor. And this has been my education and my schooling. Learning from my elders here has taught me how to love my parents as elders and to esteem them and what they've brought, where honor is due. There's protocols that I've learned from my community here that I'm just so grateful for, because for some reason, when we get these protocols in order, it just makes a difference. And it's kind of like the natural things in nature, right? The way things work. And so I have a friend who does a visual. It's really cool to watch. And what he does is he'll get everybody in the room. He'll say, "I'll put all the children in the middle, and all the kids come into the middle. Then all the elders around the children. And then around the elders is the women. And then around the women is the outer circle, which is the men." And simply put, the men are the warriors and the providers and the protectors. The women are the nurturers and the caregivers and the life givers. The elders are the wisdom, and the children are the future. But children are the teachers as well, because what we don't become parents until we are parents. So we can't plan. I remember talking to a young person not too long ago that said, I'm trying to get myself ready. I don't know if I'm going to be ready to be a parent. And I said, you can't be ready. You can't be ready until you're a parent, because your child will teach you what it means. They'll qualify you to become a parent.
Right.
In that. And so, there's so much in those natural succession of things. In a way, it does take the pressure off, right? Because we don't have to try to run around to grasp it. We just be it, and just wear it where we're at in our lives. I'm talking quite a bit about the medicine wheel because I've had some training in a medicine wheel, and there's so many parallels to what I already perceive as God in my life. And so I'm learning a lot from it. And one thing was, when I decided to let my hair go gray, I've been a redhead all my life. And I learned from the medicine wheel that, you start at spring, and then you go summer of your life, and then there's the fall of your life, and then the winter of your life. And I was learning these things, and what was pointed out was you can't skip the seasons. Here in Canada, we have distinctive seasons. There's no way you can get to the other season without going through that season. And I was thinking about how I thought, here I am dyeing my hair. I was in my 50s at the time, and I felt like I'm trying to glue the fallen leaves back on the tree. Like I was like, I can't lose my color, to get the crazy glue. And then I thought, what is that doing? And I asked, I just kind of put my hands up in prayer, and I asked, what? I really love my red hair. That's been my identity all my life, other than being mistaken for Sherry, which was the other part of my identity. But that's a whole different story. It's hilarious. But and I felt like I was told, what if I have something else that's wonderful for you in this next season? If you keep trying to keep your color and not move into that next season, then you're going to miss what I had for you. And you're going to skip that wisdom that I'm going to give you. And I have 3 beautiful daughters I'm very proud of. They're amazing women. And I thought, by moving into the next season, I'm allowing them to step into their season and to embrace who they are. They're in the season of color, and I'm moving out of that. And my friend said to me, well, you don't look like their sister anymore. You look like their mother. And I said, well, that's good, because I am their mother. And so I guess I'm speaking to that kind of all around, but that's kind of where I'm going with it. Again, I want to go back to, as an observer of the Northwestuary. And when I was there and I was looking at what was happening as an outsider, I think it's really valuable to be an outsider, because I don't have any of the other cloud of information that's fogging my view. I'm seeing it all just for the first time at face value. And And I really wanted to emphasize how I just felt like I was witnessing something really special. And I do think it's a trickle down from what's going on in the bigger culture. Again, I have this much information, right, from all this other stuff. But what I've seen with this movement that's going on, and Jordan Peterson, of course, he's a big part of that, and is that there's something going on there, and I was able to see it. And Sherry said, "What did you think day 1, day 2?" I said, "Well, I felt like water is really important here in our community. Fish is what keeps the people alive, and along with other game. But water is really, really powerful and really important. It comes from these snow-capped mountains. It goes into the high elevation Glacier Lake that's here. It's one of the largest, highest in North America, largest salmon run, 3rd largest. And then it trickles down into the river and the tributaries. And I said, when I saw the first day when I came in, it was like somebody opened the floodgate and I saw the river start to flow. I heard Paul speak, Graham speak, Karen speak, and it was like a fire hose. I was like, it's like that first little coming down, the river coming down. And then the second day, what I noticed was as the water starts to flow and it starts to settle, it starts going into these deep crevices and the dark places and the low places. And without giving it away, because I know there's lots online to observe, there was some very deep, dark places that were being, touched, filled. And with that water going down to those deep, dark places, there's also something that happens there. Not only is it being filled, but whatever's not supposed to be there is chased out.
Yeah.
And revealed. So all of a sudden there's some scattering that goes on. There's some things that come up and people go, ew, oh God, I didn't know that there was spiders. I didn't know that there, and then people get repelled, but you forget that what you're seeing is something, it's coming up because it has to come out. And so that, to me, that's the place where I call it where the rubber meets the road. Mm-hmm. And on day 2, I got a news that my youngest daughter, who's the mother of 5, got thrown off her horse and broke her back in 5 places. And that was Sunday morning. And so what kept me boots on the ground was the fact that I know that everything happens for a reason. And I thought, there's a reason why I'm here and not there. Mm-hmm. There's a reason why these things are getting kind of like exposed, right? I saw the water going down into these deeper, darker places, and these things being brought up that are hard to look at, difficult to see. And that was kind of a picture of what was going on for me at the time, because as a mother and a grandmother, I couldn't be present for that. Just FYI, she's walking, she's recovering, she's not well yet, but she's not in the hospital, she's home, and I'm going to go see her this afternoon. But so I wanted to just bring light to that, in that I'm very happy for all of you to be able to experience that. And I kind of got a feeling one time in estuary, well, I don't know if it was estuary, but I heard a comment, something like, do we really want to be that vulnerable in a place, like, sort of like type of thing. And I thought that's a good question. It's a good question to explore. And it's a good thing to think about. I saw so many expressions, artistic expressions there from the platform and then in conversation. And something someone said to me, I had a breakdown one time and I was in a stabilization unit. I got shingles. I was under a lot of stress. And I remember craving the ability to draw and paint, not paint. I'm not a painter, but sketch or something. I'm not even really an artist. And so I was kind of puzzled by this. I was like, I just need somebody to bring me a pad and paper. You know, I was in a hospital and I was struggling. And I said to somebody, I don't know what it is. I'd pick up a magazine and I'd open it up and there'd be a picture of a garden or flowers. And I'd just be like, oh, God, it's so beautiful. Like it was just this craving I had for beauty. And it was bizarre. Could have been some of the drugs. Okay, not gonna lie. But besides that, my friend said to me, well, of course, Tracy, she said, she brought me these beautiful pad and paper and things to color and draw. And she said, because there's healing in expression.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I saw happen with that tributary, you know, open, start to flow and then go into those places. And I saw healing in expression. I saw hospitality, I saw love, and I saw healing and communion.
Sounds like God to me.
And lots of barbecue.
Yes, Megan.
Yeah, that was also beautiful, and it just got me thinking, like that visual of, you know, the salmon run and everything. Like, I was just thinking about, like, going back to the elder discussion, like my mom talking about my grandpa, and it's always a difficult topic for her. She had so much respect for him, and she always talks about how deeply intelligent he was, but he was in World War II, like right in the midst of it. He fought in it, and he was part of the troops that liberated a lot of the camps. And she always talks about how drastic a shift in him it was after coming home from that. I mean, I can't, obviously none of us can even imagine like the amount of terror and horror that he saw, you know. But yeah, I was just thinking about, you know, like fear is the opposite of love. And I think what made the Northwestuary so impactful was that I think a lot of us were able to come into it without fear. I think a lot of us have worked really deeply on that. Like I can see that in everyone. Like we've worked a lot on letting go of fear and holding on to love more closely. And I think for a lot of the elders who don't show their wisdom as much, like I talk with my sister sometimes about her experiences with my grandpa because I never met him, but he was pretty cruel to her, and it wasn't a very good relationship, and my mom was able to see a bit of him before he was so deeply transformed by such a horrific experience. And so I'm sure there was like so much fear that wrapped up in him because of that, and that he wasn't able to show his wisdom and his love after that, you know. Like there was, you know, like alcoholism and the family and all that kind of thing. And so yeah, I think the people that are able to show their wisdom and knowledge the most have kicked out that fear and are just focused on love, you know. And so yeah, I mean, it gives me great hope for like our future, is that we can all at least come into our relationships with a lot more love than fear. And yeah, it makes me really sad to think about how much wisdom was lost because of like World War II trauma, you know. I honestly think there's a lot.
Yes,
I
believe
mean,
so.
a lot of the trauma in our current world is because of, you know, all of that kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
A
Yeah.
lot of relationships that have been lost or, you know, trickled down from all of that. So yeah, I
Well, it's
think
part of the
I think
reason why.
the
Oh, sorry. It's
yeah, no,
part of the reason.
yeah.
Part of the reason why I get really upset about the discourse around boomerality is that it's easy to point your finger and say, look what you didn't give to us, but you don't know the pain that those people went through and how it cut them off from their own families, actually. The trauma, right, of the Second World War, the Vietnam War, the Korean War, like, you know, those impacted people's lives. Good men came home and became wife beaters and alcoholics, or, you know, or just terrible dads, or whatever the case might be. And then you got a whole generation that crops up after that saying, don't even talk to us. We don't want to hear from you. Okay, well then, you know, I won't. Kind of thing. I'll be
Creates
quiet.
more fear, more
Right.
anger.
And then all the communication breaks down. But it comes from places like Tracy was saying, like, you know, you open up the dam and the water flows in, whether it's trauma or it's healing, right? Either way, that's how these things go. And unfortunately, there are microcosmic communities in the world that, you know, we can look at and see that generational trauma and how it's worked its way down to this moment right now and what it's doing to a small child. It doesn't come from nowhere, right? It always comes from somewhere. But anyway, I'm going to have to sign off here and get some things done. We've been 2 hours and 6 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. And
Too good conversation.
It was really, really good. And I
So nice
think
to
it would be, yeah, I think it would be fun to try doing this together, Tracy and Megan, and anybody else who wants to join, Graham, and anybody, actually, if anybody's watching and was at the conference for the first time that I didn't meet, you know, it would be fun just to get your feedback as well. We don't have to keep talking about the conference, but as you can see, the conversation does kind of organically get interesting.
Yep.
as it does in estuary
point, because I had no other connection otherwise, right? So yeah, that's awesome.
So I just want to, I'm going to wrap it up. Maybe we'll do some last words. Bye, Mark. Tracy, do you have any last things you'd like to say?
Oh gosh, it's just, yeah. I actually would like to say that I also want you to know that by participating in all these conversations, I noticed everybody was so good at conversations. Like Megan's, like, people are like, well, tell me more about that. Well, what about that? But, you know, it was really interesting to watch that, you know, people being able to dive deep and talk like that. So yeah, I think I'll just leave it at that. Thank you again for inviting me and welcoming me to that Northwestuary, being able to experience that as an onlooker. And I never got to say goodbye to everybody, but yeah, I just wanted to thank the ones who welcomed me, and especially Nate and Eve for opening up their home and their hospitality. Sorry, Sarah Eve, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
and
Sarah Eve.
Yeah, and then just to be able to glean from that. So thank you, and thank you, my sister. Love you, Megan.
Love you too.
Thanks. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. You got any last words, Megan?
Oh, yeah, I didn't get to talk to too many people just because of my introvertedness, and it's hard for me to deal with large groups of people. So I I like deeply want to get to know more people. But kind of similarly to Graham, it's like a fire hose at all times, all of the Discord and all of the videos and all that kind of thing. So yeah, I would love to get to know more people, maybe more like one-on-one on Discord or something. So yeah, but yeah, I really appreciate all the people that I met, and all the people saying like really nice comments too. Yeah, I appreciate all of you. Really looking forward to making more friendships and more connections and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I'm really appreciative to Sherry and Tracy for having me on today. That was
Yeah.
super awesome. Really kind of you. So yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you, Megan.
Say hi to your mom for us.
Yes.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know she's missing it just as much as the rest of us. So
All right. Well, I thank everybody for watching today, and we're going to sign off now. Thanks for being with us at Grail Country. Bye, everybody.
Bye.